Hello, everyone. Welcome into Dot Talk this week. Tuba Samurai on with you, and we are in the playoffs in Goal Line Blitz. And if you're in the playoffs, good luck to you. We've got a lot of news and updates coming up for you this week, and we'll get into those next. Get in on the action. Goal Line Blitz is a web-based American football MMORPG. They've written a custom football simulation engine to provide you with the ultimate football experience on the web. Do you love fantasy football? Ever wish you could play with the pros? Join other football fans from around the world in building the player and team of your dreams right here. That's GoalLineBlitz.com. Get in on the action. And welcome back into Dot Talk this week. Tuba Samurai on with you, and got a lot of great stuff on the show for you this week. And you just heard our commercial for Goal Line Blitz. Get in on the action, and a lot of changes going on in Goal Line Blitz, especially coming up this off season, and probably a lot coming up the next as well as they try to get this thing out of beta. One big thing that's come out recently is the Goal Line Blitz merchandise. If you look on the homepage before you log in now, you can find a link to that. And in the Goal Line Blitz shop, you can buy mugs, shirts, hats, hoodies. They've got board gear, dot gear, all kinds of stuff there. It's hosted by Cafe Press, so head over there, check that out, and see if there's anything you like. Also, not here yet, but something they're working on and something that's getting some traction in the forums are flash replays. And I've seen those. They're looking crisp. They're not perfect, and they're still working on them, but I can tell you I'm excited about those coming out. They're going to look smooth. Had the Q&A session on March 10th with Bort and Catch22, and if you haven't seen that, you can head over to Goal Line Blitz main and check in the subforums there in the Q&A archive. You can find the entire thread discussion on that. You can also find the summarized thread, so if you don't want to read through 30 pages worth of stuff, you can see our summary that the Q&A mods did. And once again, that's a subform of Goal Line Blitz main. It'll say Q&A archive. A couple of things I pulled out of the Q&A that I thought were pretty interesting that I would report on. Had a question in there: what plans are being made to condense the number of CPU teams? Will leagues be removed? Bort says minor league contract and expand as needed. So the main problem is AA if there aren't enough high-level teams. Bort says I might very well nuke 2 leagues in some of the regions and turn some of them into some sort of level-capped A league. Sorting the CPUs off by themselves have worked somewhat, and that's pretty much the plan as needed. But with all the teams restarting the last few seasons, it's definitely been tough to fill the higher ranks. And I think we're going to see some more of that next season when archetypes come out. Another question for Bort: what is being done to put a hard stop to super slow build teams? Bort says 99% sure we're going to be making the following changes, and he said he still needs to write the code for it. 50% of the max experience for being on a team on game day, and no training when not on a team. That covers the main methods of super slow build pretty well. And last question I pulled out of Q&A: will regular teams ever be able to move to casual leagues? If so, will the same new promotion-to-motion rules apply? Catch says no, they will not. Bort says I've gone back and forth with the idea, but some of the problems are teams would lose their AI and the level differences between normal and casual leagues, since normal leagues have been going on a lot longer. So that's stuff out of the Q&A session. They haven't set a time for the next Q&A session, but if you want to go ahead and get a question in, you can email those to questions@goallineblitz.com, and be sure that include your Goal Line Blitz username when you send in a question. Next segment, we've got This Week in FFA with Drake. Drake says the only news out of FFA this week is the Chester Romans of Western Europe AAA number 1, owned by moderator Darkness Black, the head FFA mod, lost in the playoffs. It's mainly an FFA team full of FFA dots for the most part. Some highlights out of that game: the dual threat quarterback for the Romans makes a mistake on a pass that gets returned. Later in the game, the star passing quarterback makes a mistake late in the game, so they trade off there. And then the last highlight for this, the Romans trying to make a comeback, but all they get is this. And our next segment, we've got Addict news with the Don. The Don and his good fellas have now saved 3 teams from being sold back, and they've plugged new Addict ownership into those teams and saved them from going CPU. That's good news out of the Addicts. And right now, time for our pro tip this week with Chisel, and this is a long one. He says, bear with me, this tip is going to be a bit longer. It's for Season 15 free agents that are going to be looking for a team next season. Finding a good team is the best way to make sure you have fun with the game. Each person will have different credentials for a team, but there will be pretty universal things you'll want to avoid. This should help you avoid getting on a team that won't suit your tastes. First of all, you need to research the teams a bit. Basing your team off of the name, the size of the bonus, is not the best thing to do. By the way, Chisel said he's giving away a free Hall of Fame package to the first 500 people that message him with, "I heard that agility defensive tackles are the best." Also, did I mention anyone can lie, or at least not tell the full truth? So you shouldn't believe a recruiting pitch blindly. There's nothing binding about the claim that they make in the recruiting pitch. The best way to gauge a team is to check certain things and then ask questions in a PM. Some teams private message you and some don't. Just because a team PM'd you does not mean they're a better team. Most are copy-paste jobs, and they can't always answer questions that easily. So send them a private message, get them to speak to you on a more personal level. It will let you see their personality a bit easier. Plus, most recruiters hate sending PMs and offers and never hearing from the agent. So a PM shows that you're at least interested enough to talk to them about it. If you do some checking first and find yourself not interested in the team, go ahead and reject the contract so they know. It saves them the heartache. Some things you can check about a team when they offer you a contract. Check their team note. A lot of teams post their records there, which is a good indication of how experienced they are. Also, a team note that is childish or crude can give you an idea of the owner's personality. Finally, if the note is in another language, you might want to think twice about it if you don't know the language. If it's blank or a bit crude, you can ask them about it via PM. Also, check their team chemistry. A high chemistry means they don't have a very big turnover. It usually means agents are fairly happy with the team. Low chemistry means higher turnover, which isn't always bad, but you might want to ask about it. Check the GMs. Do you recognize any names? Even if you don't know the people, having a big-name person who behaves on the forums is generally not a bad thing. Most of those people will not lend their name to a bad owner just for a GM spot. You can also check the DC and OC to get an idea of how experienced they are based on the other teams they work for. Check the roster. How many of the players are signed for more than one season? How many of those players are the owner or GMs? A high number of players that aren't the owner or GMs signed for a long time can be a very good thing. People don't stick around for or agree to long-term contracts for a bad owner usually. But some owners only like one-year deals, so that's not a bad thing. You can PM and ask about that. Check their records. How well did they do? Some people are okay. It can give you an idea. Check the league. Depends on what you want. Do you want a competitive league with lots of hard games? Do you want a non-elite minor team that can mop up a free trophy? Things you need to have in mind. As a final note, keep in mind a lot of teams send out a whole bunch of offers to good agents for a position that they only need one player for. After a player accepts, they'll retract all the other offers. Most teams do not have the luxury of waiting around for each agent to get back to them. So basically, if you see a good team, you might want to consider jumping on it sooner before the opportunity slips away. And that's this week's pro tip. And thanks to Chisel for that. That's going to do it for us on segment 1. Stay tuned for segment 2. We'll look at the Dot Talk replays of the week coming up next.